Chapter the DOS. Abu Dhabi. Harry somehow managed not to shout out, probably because he was scared stiff. The little creature tucked away under some bags of chips, but Harry could tell it had large, elephant-like ears and bulging green eyes the size of softballs. Harry had a funny feeling that this thing had been watching him for quite some time. As they stared at each other for many moments in silence, Harry caught Bubba's voice from down the hall. "May I take your coats, Mr. and Mrs. Branson?" We haven't got any." The creature slipped came about out from behind the chip bags and waddled out into the kitchen. It took a long bow so low that his head completely touched the floor. "Arg! I just cleaned that," Harry thought. He could now see the creature in plain view. It was wearing what looked like an old used trash bag with rips for arm and leg holes, and a quaint tinfoil hat. Howdy," said Harry like he's met strange abominations before. "Harry Potter," said the thing in a high-pitched voice Harry was sure would transfer down the hall. "So long has yours truly wanted to meet you, sir. Such an honor it is. A real treat, oh such a real treat." Thank you," said Harry, edging slowly back towards the cider glazed Brussels sprouts he was preparing. He wanted to ask, "What are you?" but thought it would sound too rude, so instead he said, "Of course, what are you?" "Dhabi, Sir Harry. Abu Dhabi. Prime House Elf Extraordinaire, 3RD class, at your command, Sir Harry." "But most people just call me Dhabi," said the creature. "Oh, that's so?" said Harry. "Well, I don't want to be rude or anything, but this isn't a great time for me to have a house elf in the kitchen. I'm way behind on preparing this meal and I need to focus or the Drubbles Noughts will beat me if don't have it ready in time, so." Aunt Petunia's lengthy fake laugh sounded from the solarium. The elf looked puzzled. "Why don't you get right to the point?" said Harry swiftly, turning to a bowl of Brussels sprouts. "Is there an actual objective for you being here?" "Oh, yes, sir," said Darby earnestly. "Darby has come to reveal to you, sir. It is challenging, sir." Darby ponders where to even begin. "Spit it out, man," said Harry, starting to feel annoyed. To his horror, the elf burst into tears, very noisy tears. "SHH. Harry wailed. "If those other people down the hall hear you, we'll all be in for a lot of beatings." Harry thought he heard the chattering voices come to a halt. "Darby has never been asked to spit at a wizard's feet before. It's a symbol of honor and respect for our kind," choked the elf. Darby, still sobbing, bent down to Harry's feet and spit out a yellowish-grey mucus-like substance on Harry's shoes. Harry, trying not to say UGH, too loudly flicked his feet trying to get the dreaded substance off his sneakers. "I can see why no wizard would," said Harry, trying to figure out what's all this about. Abu Dhabi shook his head in sadness and looked like he was about to say something, but then, without notice, he reached up and started banging his head furiously with a pan he picked up from the counter, shouting, "Naughty Darby! Naughty Darby!" Luckily it was empty, or the 3-berry salsa Harry mixed in it earlier would have flown everywhere. What are you doing?" Harry hissed. "Darby had to discipline himself, sir," said the elf, who looked a little woozy and talked with a slight slur. "Darby nearly spoke ill of his family, sir." "Like your dad?" "The wizard family Darby serves, sir. Darby is a house elf, bound to serve one family forever. It shall not end until my death. I shall take no wife, hold no lands, father no children. I shall not wear clothes and do no gambling. I shall live and die at my post. I am the helper in the shadows. I am the washer of the walls. I am the slave that serves the realms of men. I pledge my life and honor to the family, for this night and all the nights to come." Do they know you're here?" asked Harry curiously. Darby trembled. "Oh, no, 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 sir. Darby will punish himself most severely for coming to see you, sir. Darby will have to tumble down the stairs 100 times for this. But won't they know what you are doing if you keep rolling down the stairs and then get up to do it again? Darby doubts it, sir. Darby is always tripping over himself, sir. And punishing himself for something, sir, punishment's most severe. They let Darby get on with it, sir. Sometimes they prop up a lawn chair to watch and encourages me to do extra punishments. But why don't you just leave? Flee? A house elf can never be set free, sir. I've taken the sacred oath. Darby will serve the family until he dies, sir. Harry reflected on what Abu Dhabi disclosed, stirring the roasted Dijon mashed potatoes as he thought. And I thought I had it bad here, he said. This makes the work I do for the Drubbles Noughts sound like a decent wage-earning job. Anything I can do to help? At that instant, Harry regretted asking that question. Darby dissolved again into ails of gratitude and bent down again to embrace Harry's legs. Please, Harry whispered desperately, get off or you'll trip me. Also be quiet, will you? If the Drubbles Noughts hear anything, if they even know you're here. Harry Potter asks the history of Darby. Darby has heard of your greatness, sir, but of your godliness, Darby never knew. Darby's not worthy, sir. He's not worthy. Harry, who was feeling very distinguished, said, whatever you've heard about my greatness, it's true. All of it. Even the bits you never heard of. But he stopped quickly, because he thought he heard Mrs. Drubbles Nought say it was time for dinner. But it was a false alarm, she was just talking about the last stately dinner they held that nearly killed Harry slaving away in the kitchen. Harry Potter is humble and modest, said Darby reverently, his huge eyes twinkled with delight. Harry Potter speaks not of his triumph over he who couldn't even kill a baby. Oh, you mean that Voldemort guy? Said Harry. Darby slapped his hand over Harry's face. Speak not the name, sir. Speak not the name. Sorry, said Harry quickly rubbing his cheek. I know lots of people don't like it. There's this dude Ron. He stopped again. Thinking about Ron was dreadful, he didn't care much for the boy and certainly didn't want him in his thoughts. Darby tilted his head sideways as he looked toward Harry with teary eyes. Oh no, Darby hurt Master Harry. Darby is awfully sorry, sir, it was out of instinct, it was. There will be lots of extra punishments later for Darby, this is a promise. Darby never wanted to hurt Harry Potter. Okay, just keep your voice down, will you? Harry said in a concerned manner. You want me to do extra punishments too? Well, that's what I'll for sure get if they catch you here with me. Darby heard, he said hoarsely, that Harry Potter met the Dark Lord for a second time just weeks ago. That Harry Potter was hero yet again. Well, Harry thought with a smile, yeah? Hero, you got that right. Truth was Harry did very little. In fact, if he hadn't gone after what turned out to be Professor Quirrell trying to steal the sorcerer's bone, the professor would probably still be down in the last room, sitting in front of the Dumbledore trying to figure out how it worked. He risked his life for nothing. Ah, sir, he wept, wiping his face with the corner of the soiled trash bag he was wearing. Harry Potter is fearless and gallant. He has endured countless dangers already. But Darby has come to shield Harry Potter, not that he needs it. But nonetheless Darby is here to warn him, even if Darby has to fall down the stairs 1,000 times. Harry Potter must not go back to Hogwarts. There was a silence broken only by the loud laughter and rumble of Uncle Verne's voice emanating down the hall. Wait, what? Said Harry, not sure if he heard right. He was still lost in his thoughts about being a hero. But I must to go back, term kicks off September 1st. It's all that's keeping me going, would have committed suicide weeks ago, don't you see? You don't know what it's like here. I don't want to live out my life as a common slave. No offense. I belong in your world, where I'm rich and powerful, at Hogwarts. Nope, 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 whined Derby, shaking his head so hard his ears slapped the front and back of his head. Harry Potter must remain where he is safe. He is too important, too famous to lose. If Harry Potter goes back to Hogwarts, he will be in mortal danger. PSH, Harry said, brushing off the warning. I faced death before and always come out all right. Let them come, I'll show them who's boss. But there is a sinister plot, Harry Potter. A conspiracy to make most appalling things happen at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and like tomfoolery this year, whispered Derby, abruptly quivering all over, every limb becoming quite wobbly. Derby has known it for months, sir. Months. Harry Potter must not put himself in peril. He is too much of a big shot, sir, too exposed. What sort of peril? Harry said with squinty eyes. Who's scheming this? Derby made a funny choking noise and then beat his head wildly with the pan again. All right, cried Harry, grabbing the pan from the elf's arm. Apparently you can't tell me. I don't really understand why. But you are warning me so. Harry jumped to the obvious conclusion. Hang on. Has this got anything to do with my main man volume? Sorry, with you know perfectly well who I'm talking about. You could just wink or give me a tap on the fanny if so, he added, mixing what will eventually be the large ginger layer cake. Derby shook his head, ears slapping his face again. No, not he who couldn't even kill you as a baby, sir. But Derby's eyes were wide and twitchy and seemed to be striving to give Harry a hint. Harry, however, was completely lost and was never any good at charades. He hasn't got an evil twin, has he? Or perhaps a disgruntled son? Oh, I know, it's Snape. Derby shook his head, his eyes wider than ever. Well then, that's everyone I have on my kill list, except Ron, but he wouldn't be up to this, said Harry. I mean, there's Dumbledore. For one thing, you know who Dumbledore is, don't you? We're kinda like BFFs now, so he'll protect me no matter what. Derby nodded slightly. School bus Dumbledore is the extreme chief headmaster at Hogwarts. Derby knows it, sir. Derby has heard Dumbledore's powers rival those of he who couldn't even kill you as a baby in his prime. But, sir, Derby's voice increased almost to an urgent yell, Dumbledore is getting old. And rumor has it he's. But before Derby could finish, an obvious instant silence fell down the hall. 2 seconds later Harry heard a chair scraping the floor and then what had to be Uncle Vern thumping towards the kitchen, calling, just can't get good help these days. I warned them not to be seen nor heard. Quick! Under the sink! Gulped Harry, opening the cabinet door and stuffing Derby in, closing it behind him, and walked over to the oven just as Uncle Vern poked his beefy head around the corner. What the devil are you doing? Said Uncle Vern through clenched teeth, his both fists clenched very tight. You've completely ruined the punchline of my dumb blonde joke. One more sound and you'll wish you'd never been born, boy. And you've got 10 minutes, you hear me? I want this dinner ready in 10 minutes. Harry, staring blankly with that deer-in-the-headlights look, just nodded as he pulled the crown roast out from the oven. Just finishing the last dish now, sir, Harry lied. Uncle Vern stomped his feet, turned and left the kitchen. Harry let Derby out from underneath the sink. See what I've been dealing with? He said. See that Hogwarts is the place for me? None of this trivial manual labor stuff. Harry Potter must enjoy the work, sir. Creates discipline and teaches lessons, said Derby with a nod. No. I've got to get out of here, get back to Hogwarts where I'm loved like a god. Then Harry Potter leaves Derby no choice, said the elf sadly. Before Harry could move, All the entrees Harry had worked so hard on floated up towards the ceiling. "Oh, come on!" squawked Harry. "They'll kill me. Better them here than at Hogwarts." But no matter, Harry Potter must say he's not going back to school. "Darby. Come on, man. Say it, sir." "Can I lie?" Darby gave him a tragic look. "Then Darby must do it, sir, for the good of Harry Potter. One day you will thank Darby for this." "Not bloody likely," Harry whispered under his breath, as he knew the inevitable was coming. The cake batter fell to the floor with a heart-stopping crash. The three-berry salsa splattered the windows and the walls were covered in mashed potatoes. Duck meat exploded all over the floor, followed by the beef tenderloin. The crown roast landed on top of Harry's head. "Long live the king," Darby said with a bow. And with a crack of a whip, Darby disappeared. There were screams from the solarium, and soon after Uncle Vern burst into the kitchen to find Harry standing there in the middle of the floor, covered from head to foot in exploded meat and other ingredients. At first, it appeared as though Uncle Vern would just play it cool. "Just our neighbor boy, very disturbed, likes to sneak into the house now and then to cause mischief, need to get a restraining order on that one." He shooed the curious Sir Branson back into the solarium as he commented on what a sweet young lass Harry seemed to be. But as soon as they vanished around the corner, Uncle Vern popped his head back into the kitchen to promise Harry he would whip him to within an inch of his life, wait a week for him to recover, and do it all over again. He told Harry to get the mop while he called up a catering service. Aunt Petunia dug out some pizza rolls to tide everyone over until the catering arrived. She put them in the microwave while Harry, irritated, started scrubbing down the kitchen floor for the second time in a day. Uncle Vern might still have been able to make his deal, if it hadn't been for Bubba. Aunt Petunia was just passing around the plate of pizza rolls when Bubba started scarfing down the lot of them. Mrs. Branson screamed like she was on fire and ran from the house shouting about disgusting eating habits. Sir Branson stayed just long enough to tell the Drubblesnorts that his wife was not too fond of obese people, makes her feel queasy and gross. They both got in their Bugatti and peeled off down the street. Of course, the full blame for this evening's failure was placed squarely on Harry. After the Bransons left, Uncle Vern came bearing down on Harry like a great wolf ready for a kill, all his teeth shone. "I've got news for you, boy. I'm locking you up and throwing away the key. You just cost me untold amounts of money. You're never going back to that school. Never. And if you try to magic yourself out, they'll expel you." So, laughing like a maniac, he dragged Harry to the basement door and shoved him down the stairs. Harry tumbled down the stairs with a crash, unable to move once he hit the bottom. After a few grueling hours, fell asleep where he lay, surely thinking he'd broken several bones and was in too much pain to move. The following morning, Uncle Vern welded a large cage of bars together in the basement. He finished just as Harry awoke from the same spot where he fell the night before at the bottom of the stairs. Uncle Vern threw Harry in the cage along with several empty coffee cans so he could go to the bathroom. 12 days later, the Drubblesnorts were showing no sign of relenting, and Harry couldn't see any way out of his situation. He was still in a great deal of pain as he lay on the cold hard caged floor and wondered miserably what was going to happen to him if he didn't see a doctor. What was the point of magicking himself out of this situation if Hogwarts would expel him for doing it? Yet life on the private drive had reached an all-time low. Darby may have tried to save Harry from Hogwarts happenings, but the way things were going, he'd be dead within a few days anyway. Uncle Vern had built in a slot in the cage bars and Aunt Petunia's pushed a bowl of hot ham water through it. Harry, who by this point had already tightened his belt by one loop so he wouldn't feel hunger pains, jumped off the floor and seized it like a ravenous dog. The soup was stone cold, but he gulped it down anyway. And yet, he was somehow even hungrier than he had been before the soup. Supposing he was still alive in another 4 weeks, What would happen if he didn't turn up at Hogwarts? Would they send out a search party? Would there be a countrywide manhunt for the whereabouts of the famous Harry Potter? The basement was growing very dark. Weakened with a rumbly stomach, Harry fell into an uncomfortable sleep. He dreamed that he and his cage were part of the show at the circus, with a card-reading wizard in training wheels attached. People goggled through the bars at him as he, starving and weak, cycled around the small cage on a tiny clown bike. He saw Darby's face in the crowd eating cotton candy. Darby called, "Harry Potter is safe there, sir," and took a large bite of his treat. Then the Drubblesnorts appeared and Bubba rattled the bars of the cage, yelling at him to do something interesting. Then Snape walked up and yelled at Harry to kill the Malaysian Prime Minister. "Stop it," Harry muttered as he woke up in a cold sweat. "Leave me alone." He opened his eyes. Moonlight was shining through the basement window and through the bars of the cage, but someone's shadow blocked part of it. There was only one person who lurked like that. Ron Weasley was outside the basement's window.